Hello, gorgeous, and welcome to the Midlife Realignment. I'm your host, Esther Blum, and I'm here to disrupt the narrative on perimenopause and menopause with humor, nutrition, hormones, and fierce self-advocacy. Together, we'll rewrite your story and the rules because there's a light at the end of the vaginal tunnel. Let's go. Today on the Midlife Realignment, I spoke with Dr. Emily Kiberd. Emily has been a chiropractor for 18 years, is the mother of two amazing kids, and the founder of Thyroid Strong. She has overcome mold toxicity and put her autoimmune conditions into remission, and we unpacked all of that on such a deep, powerful level. So you are going to want to grab a pen and paper, you are going to want to take notes, and you are going to come away so educated and empowered from this episode. Enjoy the show. Emily Kiberd, I am so grateful you are here today. Welcome. And you're coming to us from Colorado, yes?
That's right. I'm so excited to be here. The last time we sat down was in New York in person, and New York always has my heart, but yeah, now I'm in Colorado.
That's right. That was in your chiropractic studio in Midtown.
Yeah.
That was a beautiful
57th and
office.
6th.
And
Yeah.
you left Brooklyn and you went out to Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of people, and hopefully this doesn't create a trauma response for everyone, I think for some people, COVID was like such a blessing. And for me, it was very challenging to like close my clinic. It felt like my first baby. And it was like a blessing, which we can talk about in in other ways as well, of like being present with my kids and not seeing them as like a side piece to my clinic, but actually they are the main dish. So yeah.
So you have two babes. How old are they now?
Yeah, so Elvis is almost 10 and Brooklyn is 6.
Oh my God, they've gotten so
I
big.
know.
Oh my
I
God.
know.
Well, so let's unpack that journey now, because so much of what we talk about here and what we want to normalize are the conversations around the shifts that we do make in midlife and when we do dig deep and what the trajectory is that leads us to make those changes. So what was that
Yeah.
like for you? What was your process?
You mean from like in that transition across the country?
Yeah, what instigated the move and
Yeah.
what helped you align with really prioritizing your kids during the transition, because you had a 7-figure business. You were a total workhorse. You had a team. So let's unpack your
Yeah.
evolution for a minute.
Yeah. So COVID hit and I told my whole team, it's not if, but when we open. And I thought, oh, we're just going to open in 2 weeks. And then obviously months and years rolled by. And I had a 3.5-year-old and a 9-month-old at the time with no childcare, right? Because everything closed down. And it probably came from a place of dysregulation looking back, but I was like, I just got to like shut down the clinic. I got to get out of here, which I'm sure a lot of New Yorkers felt in June of 2020. They were like, let's flee. And so I was like, where is a place that has more space, more outdoors, can really fill the soul in that way? And it was either Austin, San Diego, or Boulder. And I chose Boulder. And, we moved, we didn't know anyone, and it was very challenging, probably from like 2020 to 2021. I felt like having this clinic that I had breathed life into and closing it and letting go of my team of 10 was almost like killing my first baby. And there was a very long mourning period. And then I started to realize, because I would still go back to New York and treat patients like once a month. And there was a moment I was standing on a subway platform in Union Square, and there was like hundreds of men. And I was like the only woman on the platform. And some were like fighting, and there was someone like peeing onto the subway tracks. And I was just like, this is not where I want to raise my kids. And this idea of life is happening for me, like I would have never taken the pause to leave New York. I would have been like, my clinic's here. I would have never taken that pause. And I was like, oh, like this moment of COVID and the closing and this loss was actually happening for me and not to me. And I think really stepping into being a mother and like growing these two human beings and nurturing them. Whereas before, and I hate to say this out loud, but I think entrepreneurial women who are doing the thing will understand is sometimes your kids feel like they're pulling you away, or some maybe they feel like a burden, even though they're not at all. But they felt like they were pulling me away from like my life's work. When in actuality, this pause, this moment in time of COVID, this life happening for me, the universe providing was actually like, here's these two beautiful human beings that like need you. And yes, you are working on people and getting them out of pain, but the way you're doing it, working 14 hours a day, maybe it doesn't have to look like that. Maybe it can look different. And so, now it's like I drop my kids off at school, I work, I pick them up. In New York, like finishing my day at 3 is like unheard of. Like picking my kids up at 2:50 would be unheard of. And so I think that evolution of, do I have to push? Do I have to like push and grind and push from this like masculine energy? Or can it be a pulling, a magnetizing, trusting in the universe energy? So that's been the evolution over the last 5 years.
Well, and I love that you touched on, the masculine energy comes with entrepreneurship. There are many feminine leaders that really channel the divine and have a softening, but there are a lot of us, I align with you too, and because I have one child, who's now, a young adult really, but you can really prioritize work under those circumstances. And that's often what fuels us. And it's what fueled us before we had children. So then when we add babies into the mix, we're like, well, I'll just fold them into my business. It's not always family first initially. And it does take major shifts, major signs in our lives. It can be COVID. It could be the death of a parent. It could be perimenopause knocking you on your ass, or in your case, mold toxicity and major thyroid issues too.
Yeah.
And those are the moments that the universe is like, hello, you've actually been grinding for years. Your nervous system and hormonal havoc needs a pause right now. And so, like you say, it does happen for you, but not to you, but it is such a process of letting go when that does happen, because you have to reconfigure your identity. You're like, most entrepreneurs don't know who they are if they're not working, or they have forgotten who they are, or just aren't programmed to take the time to be with themselves and be in those lovely quiet periods where actually the most growth and creative thoughts happen. They don't happen when you're hustling and grinding. They happen when you stop and pause. So I don't know if that was your process or not, but I find for a lot of people that is the process.
Yeah. I remember when I had the clinic on the weekends, I used to get depressed. And I was like, why am I depressed? Here's my downtime. And it was just going from that high sympathetic go, go, go drive, holding it all together, even though sometimes things felt like they were falling apart, to just the quiet and the calm. This was pre-kids. I would get like depressed, and it was probably just my nervous system trying to drop back into the parasympathetic and be like, you're okay, you're safe. You don't have to be, grinding so hard all the time. And I think a lot of female entrepreneurs feel that. So colleagues and friends are like, yeah, on the weekends, I feel like I'm like in a little bit of a funk.
Totally.
Like, oh,
It feels weird.
Yeah, it feels weird.
It feels weird. Or napping. Like when I nap, I'm like, am I just a lazy ass? And then I'm like, no, just your body actually needs a nap, and go for it, man. That's what weekends are here for. And it gets even weirder when your kids go to college, because then you're like, I have so much time back. What do I even do with that time? And it has been a fascinating journey, just to just to read in bed every night feels decadent. I'm like, wow. Or take a bath or a
Luxurious.
sauna. Yeah, I'm like, who am I again? That's who I used to be before I had kids. But now it
Yeah.
feels extra delicious because you're like, this is crazy. I'm done with dinner by 6:37 and I have a good 3 hours before I go to bed. It's so weird.
Yeah, amazing. I think it's also, I mean, this balance of like this masculine and feminine, and I think I was in my masculine for a really long time, and I'm still trying to navigate it because I love to lift weights. I love to feel really strong. I love to be around people who are powerhouses and are strong. And I also hold space for the autoimmune population who does not feel good. They feel like everything's kind of crumbling. They are a shadow of themselves. Sometimes there's these, emotional meltdowns, and navigating holding space and also trying to walk my talk and be a beacon of light. It's been a really, I mean, you hold space for that population as well. So it's been a real, like this idea of like strong and resilience and robust, but then also from this feminine place of holding space, but then also trusting in the universe and energy and flow and abundance, that like drawing in energy. So I've been navigating that as well. Cause sometimes when I step into my masculine, I'm like, oh, everyone should be lifting weights and strong and like, rah. I'm like, oh, well, everyone like actually, yes, everyone has the potential, but some people are in a place where their body is like, kind of maybe they're living in mold exposure and like physically can't get out of bed. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And I would love for you to really share your story around Hashimoto's and mold and
Yeah.
how you navigate. Because when we came into each other's lives, you were in the midst of navigating through, and now you have put Hashimoto's into remission. So
Yeah.
can you please share your story around that? Because it's a really amazing and
Yeah.
special story.
Yeah. After my firstborn, that was in 2016, 18 months postpartum, I'm wondering as a new mom who doesn't know what's quote unquote normal, is this fatigue and my hair falling out and brain fog and holding on to 30 pounds? Is this postpartum? Is this being a new mom? I was like, oh, you're tired. You're a new mom. I'm like, my kid's almost 2. Is this normal? And in actuality, it was I had Hashimoto's, and it took going through 5 doctors to get to that place of getting diagnosed by our dear friend Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, and really took, I was like rock bottom. I'm like, if this is how my life is, this cannot be how it goes on. Just with the severe fatigue and my brain not working. And some of the things of root causes that we addressed were, I was under eating because I was like, I'm working, I don't have time to eat. I had some parasites from traveling in India in my 20s. So those were probably living in there for a good 15 years. Uh, One of the other things was mold exposure. And so we had this condo in Brooklyn, in Carroll Gardens, which, if you know Brooklyn, is like really leafy green and beautiful, and townhouses. And there were leaks, and we remediated twice, and we could not find the source of the leak. We would recaulk the windows, we had contractors come in, and eventually we sold that condo. And I had hormonal eczema on the palm of my hand, which, as you can imagine, as someone who works on people all day with their hands, is like oozing and itchy and gross. And really addressing some of those root causes helped put my Hashimoto's into remission. There were lifestyle changes of how I was eating and how I was working out, like not being a cardio bunny every day. But I think ultimately it was really addressing those root causes. And the big one for me was mold. And for a lot of people, they can't just like get up and sell their condo and move, right? But even now in Boulder, you think, oh, it's super dry. Anytime there's a pipe behind a wall, there is potential for mold. So I've lived in houses with mold here. But I think the difference now is really working on resiliency and really trying to become the most robust version of myself so that if I am in mold, it doesn't have the same effects. Like we were just in an Airbnb over the holidays, and I was like, there's mold in here. And we were there for 5 days. And so I was like, I had supplements, I got out of the house. Normal Emily would have had massive brain fog and crash and just had to sleep. And I was fine. And so I think, you know, going from this place of a shell of myself to knowing what to do, knowing to have the tools in the toolbox of what to tap into when I'm exposed to things, is a really powerful thing in my life. And to be working on all the things to make, going back to the idea of like the most robust version of yourself, really that's like one of my goals every single day is to really build resilience.
100%, because your brain is talking to your cells and your DNA every single day. And there is a lot that you can overcome with mindset, but there are absolutely the physical challenges. So can you unpack a bit more about the tools that enabled you to heal from mold and how that led to you healing Hashimoto's?
Yeah. So some of the tools were things that were in the home, right? So not only is it, try and remove yourself from exposure, but is it air filters? Is it opening the window? Those are just basic lifestyle tools. Other tools are supplements to help with drainage. So liver support, bile support, because mold gets packaged up by the bile, which gets squirted out from the gallbladder. So things like TUDCA for bile support, glutathione to help with antioxidants. And then I travel with binders. So I travel with kind of a mix of clay and charcoal. Sometimes I travel with pectin, cholestyramine, which is a prescription binder, just in case. It's like, just in case, because I don't want to get stuck somewhere where I'm like, ooh, I don't feel good, but I don't have my tools. So those are some of the tools in the toolbox. Sometimes I travel with an air filter. If I'm driving, like let's say I'm going to a continuing education course and it's an hour and a half away, I will put a air filter in my car and take it with me because you never know. I might be hypervigilant, but sometimes I travel with a thermography gun and a moisture meter because I want to know, like if I'm going to like spend a ton of money, be in an Airbnb and there's a water leak, like I want to know. So those are the tools in my toolbox, but I've also been on this mold journey for the last 10 years. And I think for some people that would feel like hypervigilance, but for me, it's just like, that's what I do to take care of myself.
Well, yeah, because once you've had mold, you become the canary in the coal mine. And we had a mold issue in our house, and Gabrielle Lyon came to visit. She walked into my garage and goes, "You have a mold issue." And I was like, fuck, because we had remediated already once, didn't get it. And we had to really do a big remediation. We put UV light. We have forced air in our house, so we put UV light filters in our air ducts. I ripped out air ducts, put in new ones. UV light, Air Doctor, which is my favorite air filter. But then I also use Air Wise, which is blue light filters as well. I have both in our house. And the physical remediation, mold remediation is ground zero for your healing. If you're living in mold, your body you just have to get over the hump where your levels are low enough, where your immune system calms down, where you can have a mold exposure and know that there's some mold, but your body doesn't go into hypervigilance again. So yes, I love the tools you mentioned. TUDCA, which is ox bile, binders like clay and apple pectin is another great mold binder. Cholestyramine, which is a prescription cholesterol lowering medication that the bile acids bind mold toxins and pull them out. Bile acids also bind hormones. So if you're taking HRT, you want a functioning gallbladder, or if you've had your gallbladder removed, you may want to take some ox bile to facilitate daily bowel movements, excreting toxins through your bowel movements. But then also my doctor, I worked with Tom Moorcroft. Gabrielle sent me to
Yeah.
him,
Yeah.
and he put me on nasal sprays because mold often, for a lot of us, it's in our nasal cavities and our brains, and that drips down into the gut and the intestinal tract. So when he put me on nasal, it was a prescription nasal spray. It had Tylenol in it. It had antibiotics. It had antifungals. And I remember it was as if I'd been looking out a dirty window for months and years, really, and someone squeegeed it clean. And my brain fog lifted and I could form cohesive sentences again. So all of those are extraordinary tools for dealing with mold. I don't know if you want to add any to that of any
Yeah.
other tools that you had. A sauna therapy too. We put in an infrared
Yeah.
sauna in our house, which if you don't have the space for it, you can get infrared sleeping bags that roll up and fit under your bed. But the infrareds really pull out mold and toxins too.
Yeah. I think all of the tools, amazing. There's even, just going back to the sinuses, there's a surgeon down in Atlanta who his whole practice is kind of doing like a roto-rooter on your nasal passages.
Huh.
And sometimes there's like, there's mold, um, either calcified or like kind of encapsulated in the sinus cavity.
Wow.
And like some of his case studies are people coming in, bipolar or schizophrenic. And then he does this like sinus surgery and they wake up off the table like, oh my God, this is the old me. Like really
What's his name?
tremendous. I am blanking off the top of my head, but I will
Okay.
send it to you.
We will
Yeah.
put this in the show notes for
Yeah.
sure because, yeah, I'm all about supporting people with resources. That's amazing. I've never even heard of that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And if this feels like a lot to you, start with the basics. Start with a mold remediation in your home and get some air filters and then slowly, work with a mold literate physician. I also love Cyto Detox, which
Mm.
is it's like a type of, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on what the heck is in it, but it's CYTO, Cyto Detox, and that has a special um, mineral. It's zeolite, which is
Like a
a
type of
mineral
clay.
binder of sorts. But
Yeah.
that really helped me. And start everything and work with a mold literate provider is all I can say because having the right one will really, really, really help you. And it does also cause a lot of gut dysbiosis, which can interfere with Hashimoto's. So, what really helped? Did the mold make a dent in your Hashimoto's, or was it being on, regulating your thyroid medication, fixing your gut? Like, what tipped the scales for you in a good way?
Yeah, I think it was all of the above. I mean, I was on Cytomel for a while, for probably 9 months. Had worked through H. pylori, a couple parasites, SIBO. So I was doing all the gut stuff.
Yeah.
I would say I probably got, I don't know, maybe 60 to 70% better. But then when it was dealing with the mold, addressing the mold, that's when I was like, oh, okay, this is me. This is hello brain. Thank you for getting turned back on. Like this is the Emily that I remember.
Yeah.
So, and I see a lot of women, and I'm sure you see a lot of women as well, who are doing the gut things, or they've seen people who are gut focused, and then they see someone who's hormone focused, and they're like, I'm like 50% better.
Yeah.
And then one of those things that's lingering, that's causing fatigue, that's causing brain fog, is that mold exposure. And then once you address that, it's like, it's like lifting a veil. Just like you said, like squeegeeing the window. You're like, oh, hello, hello world. And there's so much overlap, right? So Hashimoto's, the fatigue, the brain fog, the weight gain can look like mold exposure, can look like perimenopause, And so I think having someone who is literate in multiple areas, because I think some providers are like, I'm the gut person. And you're like, okay, but mold can affect gut. So do you know mold? I think it's important for someone just to be educated, even if it's just a little bit, and be like, hey, go to this mold literate doctor, right?
Yes.
Just be know when to refer out, is really important on women's healing journey.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm going to add to that also, Emily, and say, like, for anyone listening who says, where do I start and how do I even test my house? I
Yeah.
just use what's called an ERMI test. It's ERMI. It's the one
Yeah.
if you Google it, you'll see it all over the internet. Go to the one that is in New Jersey. Yes, the light at the end of the tunnel for New Yorkers is New Jersey. Okay. So go. And all it is you get wipes and you can wipe your walls. So I wiped, like, my garage was ground zero for the mold
Mm.
issues, but the garage, we did the garage, the bedroom, the main rooms we were in, and you send it to a lab and it tells you exactly what spores you have. So, and then you can go and test your body. So to test your body, which labs did you use? Do you remember what
Yeah,
Gabrielle used?
I like real time. So I've been
Yeah.
trained under Neil Nathan, who's kind of like
Oh,
the
I
guy.
love Neil Nathan.
I
He's
love Neil.
amazing.
Yeah, Neil, and then
Yes.
also Jill Krista, who's a naturopath who
Yeah.
actually very rarely uses binders. She uses food as binders. But I've
Mm,
been trained under them, and they both really love real-time labs.
yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of like my go-to. Yeah.
They're excellent. Yes. So that's another great resource for you. And yes, there are wonderful books out there. There's a lot you can do, and it feels complicated, but it's really not. Once you have the right provider, it's just literally one foot in front of the other. It takes a good 4 to 6 months to really go through the treatment and get it out, but getting it out of your house, always, always, always ground zero for sure.
Yeah. And low and slow. So people like,
Yeah.
I'm going to push this like I'm going to try and get through this as fast as possible. Because for some people, 4 to 6 months might sound like a long time, but if you try to push detoxing mold too fast, you will definitely feel worse.
Are you slogging your way through perimenopause? Do you feel like the dead lady in the bathtub in The Shining? I'm Esther Blum, integrative dietitian, best-selling author, and menopause survivor. With 30 years of helping women make menopause their bitch, I've created an elite program to help you reclaim midlife and get your life back with personalized hormone tests, gut healing protocols, custom supplements, and coaching with me. You'll reset your sleep, banish bloating, crush your workouts, and reignite that sexy spark, all in a badass community of women like you. Visit estherblum.com/elite to learn more. You will feel so much worse. I couldn't even tolerate my infrared sauna for more than 5 minutes when I started, and it goes up to
Yeah.
like 140 degrees. Doesn't get super hot. I would do that and I would be lying awake all night with insomnia. Like, my system was just trying to detox so hard. So I would do
Yeah.
5 minutes at a time. It took me a good 6 to 12 months to get up. Now I sit there 35, 45 minutes reading a book, whatever. But it took a long time and we had to back off many times because I was also treating Lyme. So
Yeah.
it was a lot of push and pull, trying things, backing off. And I remember some of the most useful advice I got was from Tom. And he was like, start meditating every night and envisioning your body fully healed and whole. And then your cells and your DNA will catch up to that. And he and I both still have Lyme co-infections. Like, his is lit up like a freaking Christmas tree. I still have Bartonella. And we gave up treating it because I feel fine. And every time I did, I would have a massive Herxheimer reaction, which is when you just get super, super sick. Within an hour of taking like 1 or 2 drops of some plants he recommended, I would have to lie down on the couch for 2 hours feeling like I had the flu. And so I really focused on meditating and lifting weights, because like you, I lost the ability to lift weights. And within 9 months, I was strength training again, gently, very gently, but doing it. So you built this amazing Thyroid Strong program to help
Yeah.
women with Hashimoto's who felt like they were circling the drain, to help them actually modify exercise and meet them where they were at when they were struggling with thyroid issues. Do you want to talk about that a bit? And can you explain
Yeah.
how exercise works when your thyroid is not up to snuff?
Yeah. I mean, I'll go back to the clinic. I was seeing a lot of women with autoimmune disease, a lot of women with Hashimoto's, and there was a lot of joint pain and muscle aches. Obviously, that can come from, an underactive thyroid. And they all wanted to get adjusted and they wanted massage. And, I think maybe a great for the first visit, but ultimately they needed more strength. And when we are hypothyroid, it's harder to keep our muscle tissue on the bone. So we have lower muscle mass. And so for women with Hashimoto's, we're often told, like, take it easy, maybe do some stretching, some walking, maybe some Pilates or yoga. But I think there's a disservice in that message because if we're already having a hard time maintaining muscle, a lot of women are going through perimenopause when they get diagnosed with Hashimoto's. So another layer of harder time maintaining our muscle mass. The best ways to maintain our muscle mass are to lift weights and, have adequate dietary protein intake. And so I was seeing these women coming in almost being told, like, okay, don't do too much, like protect your adrenals. And I was like, you are very strong. We just need to get you to lift weights in a way that doesn't, knock you down and make you feel like you're so tired you can't get off the couch for 3 days. And so really building a strength program with proper exercise selection, proper reps and sets and rest breaks, nervous system regulation during those rest breaks, right? So maybe it's humming or singing or stimulating the vagus nerve in some way during our rest breaks, such that we could give women success in lifting weights, that they didn't have to fear it, that they could step into it, but they just needed the right cues, the right form. A lot of women with Hashimoto's struggle with shoulder pain, sometimes frozen shoulder, knee pain bilaterally. So like very rarely am I having someone back squat, below 90, like almost never, right? It's like, here, why don't you just squat down, do a box squat, tap your tush to a box versus going really low. And so really combining my background of rehab, how to breathe, how to brace, very challenging for women because we're often told to like suck in, pull the belly button to the spine. And you don't want to do that while you're weightlifting. You actually want to like breathe down and brace to protect the spine. So all these little things to just like tools in the toolbox to give women tools so that they know how to pick up a weight properly so they don't injure themselves. They pick up a weight and they know, hey, I'm going to do 3 sets of 5, right? Like I never give like, sets of 15 or 20 or even 12. And then we do a rest break. If we're going to go lower reps, we got to pick up a little heavier weight because we still need that stimulus on the muscle tissue. So that was the birth of Thyroid Strong. Hundreds and hundreds of women have gone through the program. And some of these women are like, I couldn't do any workout. I didn't even like working out, but now I like working out and I can actually do it. Or they go on to do a more aggressive workout, like maybe something like the Ladder app, but they were given the tools and the form inside of Thyroid Strong to set themselves up for success, to kind of enter the world of, in this day and age and culture of like, we're going to push hard. So knowing the right form and the cueing and when to pause, so a lot of us will push through when our form starts to fall apart. Like our knees are caving in or we're arching our neck or we're arching our back. Yeah. And for women in my program, they know, hey, my form's falling apart. I'm going to park the weight. And I'm going to wait till my next set to pick it up again versus pushing through with bad form and potentially injuring themselves. So that was the birth of Thyroid Strong. And it's been really amazing to see hundreds of women have never picked up a weight or like hated it or got injured in the past. And now they feel really confident in doing it on their own.
And they don't feel utterly destroyed and exhausted afterwards. Yeah. And they can actually feel good and mentally feel confident. They can feel resilient because I think what happens I know what happens when women do go through chronic health struggles, right? And not only have they not been seen or heard or potentially gaslit by other providers, but then they start gaslighting themselves. They're like, well, and we start telling ourselves a narrative. I can't lift weights anymore. I lost my ability to lift weights. I couldn't do it. I'm too physically exhausted, which is absolutely true. I'm not dismissing that for a minute. I was there too. But we give up on the ability, on the possibility that we ever can again, because we haven't had someone like you show us and walk us through. And I know I have had many clients go through your program who loved it. And it was like, thank God I'm able to restore my confidence and belief and trust in my body that I actually can lift weights. I don't need to kill myself with 15 reps. 5 is enough. And it just clears out all the mental real estates and all the ruminating and all the sadness and guilt and shame. Because I think there's a lot of guilt and shame around chronic health struggles too, of like, oh my God, I can't exercise, therefore I'm lazy. It's like, no, you're not lazy, but we just need to give your body just a very different tool set than, when you're 20s, you just hop on the treadmill, run, and then go out for a beer and don't even think about it. But once you have kids, once you hit perimenopause, menopause, you're like, that business model doesn't fit this body anymore.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting. You touched upon like shame and blame and if you don't do the thing. And it's just so interesting because I have a lot of clients who default into that and like they miss a workout and they're like, oh, they like beat themselves up so much. I'm like, where did this come from? Like, as women, where did this come from? And I think, I tell my women, like, we do the hard things because I really want to get them out of any sort of victim mentality and really kind of step into like a growth mindset. It's like, we do the hard things. We just do them in small doses. Like, do you need an hour workout? No. Do you need a 30-minute workout? Yeah, that's amazing. If you get 15 to 20 minutes in, like that's still a win of pushing yourself, doing the hard things, picking up something heavy and putting it down. And once you start to build that resilience, I feel like a lot of that like shame and blame starts to fall away because they're like, oh, I'm strong. Like I can do this hard thing. And I think that carries over into other aspects of life as well. Just from like a mental, physical, what they take on in terms of like hard conversations at work or I don't know, maybe getting out of like a relationship that wasn't serving them. So I think that physical strength is so important to build, especially in the autoimmune population, because I think a lot of the journey feels very victim and not intentionally, but it feels like, it's hard to push myself. I'm a shadow of myself. When in actuality, like it's in there, like you and your strength and your resilience is in there. It just kind of needs to be tapped into in a way that feels safe.
Well, yes. And also with Hashimoto's, I mean, your thyroid is literally in your throat chakra.
Yeah.
And it's so, I don't know if you see this. I know the women I see in my practice who struggle with Hashimoto's, there's inevitably a block around the voice that is not being spoken, not being seen, not being heard. And we diminish ourselves or we internalize external messaging we've heard and let that diminish us. Or just life sometimes kicks you right in the kishkas and life circumstances can also throw you for a loop and make you very sick. I mean, what percentage of women is it? 80%? Oh gosh, I have to get the stats right. There's a certain percentage of women that develop autoimmune conditions, far more than men. And the thyroid,
I think it's 1 in 8. I think it's 1 in 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think that's one of the reasons a lot of women postpartum, I think for me, even that idea of like the thyroid and like block in front of the voice, when I had my kiddo, my firstborn, I wasn't asking for help. I went to work 3 weeks postpartum and I wasn't asking for help. I was like, just put it on my plate. I can do it all. And so I do believe that was an aspect of getting an autoimmune thyroid
you
disease,
think?
not using my voice. Yeah, maybe just a little bit.
Going to work 3 weeks after, you think? You're
I
not
know.
sleeping,
I
not
know.
eating.
I know. That was old Emily. That was 35-year-old Emily. So
Oh my
yeah.
gosh. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's not a good, for those of you listening, spoiler alert, if you can afford to not go back to work immediately, The world will not end. You will be
Yeah.
good. But
Take your
yeah,
rest. Yeah.
that's definitely an aspect of autoimmune and of healing and really doing. I would encourage anyone listening to really, really work with your traumas. And you will be amazed how your body heals itself because so much of trauma, our brains are constantly receiving old error messages. So our body thinks we're still in fight or flight from an incident that may have happened when we were 6 or 10 or 20. Our brains are still programmed to think we're in fight or flight. And that is touching on our DNA every day. And, you know, what is happening is that it's turning on the genes to trigger autoimmune conditions.
Yeah.
So we don't have to develop them, but under the right circumstances, you throw in a baby or you throw in a trauma and boom, all of a sudden the field is ripe to all of a sudden the body say, nope, I'm going to divert your attention elsewhere. So you're going to get sick. You're going to have to be forced to stop and deal with this. And that's where you're going to be until you heal it. There's a great book by Nicole Sachs. Have you ever read it? It's called Mind Your Body. Have you heard of it at all or
I haven't heard
read
of
it?
it. I'm going to put it on my reading list.
It's a very interesting book. She is a psychotherapist and she has people do what's called journal speak, where they just sit for 20 minutes a day and journal. And it's just whatever brain dump is coming in. And it does, I have practiced it. It really does unearth. The act of putting pen to paper is very different than a conversation. And really downloading the contents of your brain helps really heal and reveal a lot of chronic illness. She has a lot of case studies in there. Long COVID often resolves with journaling and I know it seems so stupidly basic and simple, a little journaling and meditation, but she's seen a lot of long COVID resolve, but a lot of GI issues resolve with the journaling, a lot of, thyroid conditions, chronic health and autoimmune conditions where people have been bedridden and then slowly, brought themselves back from the dead. And it wasn't only women, it was a lot of men in this book too, which I found even more fascinating. And all of them had some history of trauma, be it physical or emotional. So we never want to underestimate the power of our mindset in all of this. And like you said, you've become hyper vigilant when you travel, but you've also become resilient. And you had shared on social the other day a picture of mold you could see like lining the toilet bowl. Right? And you were like, there's mold in here, but I got this now. And, same. I can walk into a country club, I can be in Airbnbs and smell the mold. But like, same thing, take my glutathione every day. And it just, I'm like, nope, this isn't going to make me sick. And it doesn't. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm not
it's
living in a
amazing
moldy
shift, right?
environment. What's that?
Yeah. It's an amazing shift to be like, within seconds be taken down from it and then to be in a similar environment and have done the work and be like, I'm okay.
Yeah, because you can get also a little PTSD after you have gone through such a dramatic shift. I mean, to feel like your home is poisoning you is a very scary concept. But, again, when you bring peace around it and you let your nervous system know you're safe, you're in a safe environment, it's okay. There are so many people who are exposed to mold on a daily basis who don't get sick from it. So they probably have really amazing detoxification pathways where their body just lets the mold pass through and they eliminate it easily. But also, sometimes ignorance is bliss, and people who don't think about it, I always think of like construction workers. I'm like, they're exposed to so many toxins, or hairstylists handling, all the chemicals. I'm like, how are they healthy? And I think a lot of people just don't overthink it. I think when you're in the healing field, knowledge is power, but it could also make you fucking crazy, when I go to conferences and they're like, there's so many amazing vendors and products, but also you leave and you're like, you can go down a very long dark rabbit hole in functional medicine, especially of like, oh my God, I need 30 supplements or I'm going to be sick and dying.
Yeah.
And then, when I go visit friends and see they don't take any supplements, they're absolutely fine. Their sleep is great. Their energy's great. And I'm like, there is another way to all of this. So
You're like, wow, you have amazing genetics.
I
Um,
know. Yes.
I
Yes.
will say
Yes.
everyone who I work with who has mold exposure, I have them tap into some nervous system regulation tool. And there's different ones. There's Primal Trust, Gupta, DNRS. It doesn't matter the tool, just choosing one that resonates. And even some practitioners I know will have someone do that nervous system regulation for 6 weeks before they even start to see them. Because it's such an
Ah,
important piece to
yeah.
move out of that fight, flight, freeze state and into like, okay, my body's safe, even though I'm getting exposed to something. I'm safe. I'm okay. And I think it's almost as important as
Mhm.
taking supplements and removing yourself from exposure.
Yeah. So,
Does
can
that
you
work?
walk us through maybe one or two of those systems that you mentioned?
Yeah. So some of them are actually stimulating the vagus nerve. So like doing like vagal nerve sweeps like
Mhm,
this, or like
mhm.
butterfly taps. So the vagus nerve comes underneath your collarbone. So doing butterfly taps. And then just telling yourself some sort of mantra like, I'm safe, I'm okay, like everything's gonna be good. To just drop out of, even if it's
Yeah.
just 1%, to drop out of that very heightened sympathetic dominant state to, even if you just drop in 1%. Sometimes, EFT tapping, right? Where you're,
Mm, yeah.
and just having that tool to physically use your vagus nerve and your body to move out of that dysregulated state, even if it's just a little bit. So
Yeah.
I have a lot of clients do that. Breathing techniques, exhaling out twice as long as the breath in. So maybe it's an 8 count exhale, 4 count inhale to just drop back into the parasympathetic, back into that space of like everything's okay, rest, digest. So that's a lot of the work as well with being in mold because we can feel so agitated and irritable and crazy in our head, basically.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah. Why the fuck is this happening to me? Okay. Let's
yeah,
just, yes, the vagal nerve massage is something I do almost daily to just like calm, calm, calm,
yeah,
um, and regulate. And also, when you are in gratitude, your brain can't think of negative thoughts. It just, that's how your brain works, is if you are in a place of gratitude, even if it is for a minute at a time, you know, it really does help. And I do like to, I listen to a lot of Abraham Hicks, and she's always like,
Mm,
if you go to bed ornery, you're going to wake up ornery. So go to bed in gratitude and you'll wake up in gratitude. So I always teach my clients, when they are stuck, when they are ruminating, I'm like, stop, time out, name three things you are grateful for right here, right now, no matter how small. I'm grateful for the comfy cushion under my ass. I'm grateful for my breath, and I'm grateful that I have two legs that work and I can walk every day.
yeah,
Whatever your basics are, and then ending the day on gratitude, it programs your brain into stepping out of the victimhood and into and away from a dysregulated nervous system into calm regulation and thanking your body. Thank you for my healing. That is like you put wherever you want to heal. Thank you for my healing. It's so simple but so effective. And there was a research study I read, I think it was a week or two ago, and it said like the way you speak to your body and yourself and your thoughts has the greatest effect on your outcomes, like greater than any supplement, greater than any mold remediation or toxin remediation. So it really does teach your genes, and your cells are listening to everything your brain says.
yeah, 100%,
That's
100%.
amazing. I love that you do that nervous regulation work. I think it's so, I hope everyone listening is just like taking away so much juiciness from this episode because it really does make a huge, huge difference.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about how we can make more space. We've talked about making more space for healing, but something you and I talked about before you came on the pod was really about how you create empty space in your calendar to learn and dream and kind of let your brain breathe, because that is a part of your healing too, is not having your nervous system on overdrive. Whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're working as a domestic engineer, raising your kids, how do we create more space in our lives?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is just scheduling it in. So, for example, like Mondays, it's just like creation dreaming day, which I know most people's Mondays are go, 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 let's grind it out. But I just put my Mondays to, I really love learning. I'm like always curious about different things, and just having space in the calendar or in a day. My kids are going to school, so I'm grateful that I get to have space without having to be of service to my kids, but space in my day just to like dream and learn, and like you're luxuriating reading a book at night. Having that space versus, I think my 30-year-old self thought I need to fill every single minute with something. Even if it's not a thing of work, it was like, okay, I have to listen to this podcast and I have to be learning and I have to be filling my brain. Versus now I'm like, okay, let me just like let my brain breathe and let me have empty space to dream, which I think goes back to that idea of like this magnetizing energy or this drawing in or this pulling energy versus the pushing energy. And so, yeah, like for me, I make Mondays just, there's nothing on the calendar. And also stepping into this place of what do I want to do versus what I should do. Right? Because I'm like, oh, I should do this and this and this and this and work and content. And I'm like, okay, but what do I want to do? Well, I kind of want to play my drum set. So instead of feeling shame or guilt, I'm like, I'm going to go play my drum set. And I think that's it's very different than what I did in the past. And so part of it is really asking myself, like from like down low sacral core levels, like what do I want to do versus what should I do? Because the shoulds, like they're still going to be there. Like I'm still going to have to record a podcast and create content and serve my clients. But like, what do I want to do? And sometimes I have to sit and wait for the response. And sometimes it's hours. And then there's this like my body feels this urge and it's like, okay, I have to do this. Like I have to get this out of my system. And sometimes it's like playing my drums, sometimes it's a workout, sometimes it's just walking in the sun. So it really depends on the day, but I think those are two big things that I've been tapping into.
It's amazing what a productivity tool that is, to be working when you're working and playing when you're playing. And
Yeah.
most people think also that they have to be working, when you're an entrepreneur, a lot of us think I have to be working all the time or I'm not going to earn income. I'm not going to be a success. There's a lot of lack and scarcity around it versus filling your tank, filling your bucket,
Yeah.
surrendering to being really present with your family and not working when you're with your family, because that work is so half-assed and so phoned in anyway. It's just busyness. Some of us use it as an escape to get away from our kids or use it as an excuse, which guilty as charged, by the way. But that work is so half-assed versus being so present so that when you are working, you are so incredibly productive. You really collapse time and get more done in a shorter amount of time so that you can go play drums. You can go for a walk. You have slow mornings on Mondays. Once your kids are out of the house, it gets to be Emily time. And I think if
Yeah.
more of us really dialed into that, we'd be so much more productive and so much happier. And that it's a really high level executive function skill, actually, is to be so dialed into your schedule where you're turning off your phone, you're not answering messages or texts or emails. and you're really creating content when you need to create, answering emails when you need to answer emails, and then, cooking meals or carpooling with your kids or just having nice conversations and hanging out.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
a very high level skill set, I think,
Yeah.
especially nowadays with just the invasion of the digital tech and tools we have in our lives. You can work 24/7.
Yeah. I agree. I think creating space is something that we don't realize and is something that's so important, not only just our day to day, but for our healing journey. Yeah.
Yes. That's the other piece of it, right? Because if you are working all the time and you're not unplugging, your nervous system never gets to rest.
Yeah.
So sometime after, it was probably after childbirth, maybe even before, I don't even remember anymore. I just knew my nervous system stopped, like 8 p.m., no screens. I'll check my phone or whatnot, but I'm never sitting in front of a computer because every night I do, my sleep is dysregulated. If I work after 8 p.m., I'm exhausted. I'm deeply
Yeah.
resentful, deeply, but most importantly, dysregulated. My brain and body just can't, it's not my circadian rhythm. I can wake
Yeah.
up at 6 in the morning and write an ebook at that time, but don't bother me after 8 p.m. I
Yeah.
always say to my son, I'm like, I'm here for you 18/7. It's never 24/7. And he
I
cracks
love
up.
that.
I'm like,
I love
18/7, I
that.
got you. Don't bother me. He was asking me for something the other night, and it was something I was going to have to research and buy for him. I said, it's after 8 p.m. Office hours are closed. I don't do
Mm.
business or any work transactions after 8 p.m. or it's a disaster. And that is
Yeah.
my line in the sand. But
Yeah.
it's different for everybody, obviously,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is interesting. Okay. So what would you say? I kind of want to wrap this up because something else that is such a beautiful mission of yours is to really help moms feel better and shift their energy into grounding themselves and make it a better place. What are kind of some parting words of advice you have to moms listening, to entrepreneurs listening, on how to be kinder and gentler and serve the world and themselves in a better way?
Yeah. I think if the moms feel good in the world is a better place because all that energy radiates onto our children. And I think for the moms, it's like you're the only one that has to live in your body. So, like, put yourself first, take care of your body first, and no one else is going to do that for you.
Mm,
Right? Like,
yeah.
no one can lift the weight for you. Yeah, you could hire a chef to make like yummy food, healthy food, but ultimately, even though you have a full plate and sometimes you have an overflowing plate, like you have to put yourself first.
Yeah.
And for a lot of women, that feels like cringy and awkward, but it is absolutely a non-negotiable. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yes. And now that you have the tools from learning how to be a bit more productive with your time, we can carve out 20 minutes. We deserve 20 minutes to, at the very least, to get some strength work in. And we do have that 20 minutes. It may mean waking up a little earlier. And a lot of my clients love to wake up at 5 because that
Mm.
hour, that golden hour where hopefully no one else is up bothering you, it's your time, it's your productive time to maybe have a hot beverage, do your strength training, and then really take care of yourself. For some,
Yeah.
it's, squeezing it in end of day. It depends on, your schedule, but it is absolutely knowing, like you said, no one can do the work for you.
No one.
No one, not
Yeah.
AI, not a hire. It has to come from you. And it's the universe's way of saying, please take care of yourself. Please treat your body. It's a gift.
Yeah.
And it's a privilege to exercise. Not everyone has that privilege. It's a real privilege and a gift.
Yeah. It's been
So
amazing to chat with you.
it's
I
been
love
amazing
it.
to chat with you too. I have loved this conversation. So, where can people find you and learn more about you and work with you and get support?
Yeah. I'm mainly on Instagram. It's like thyroid.strong. My website, dremilykiberd.com. I also have a podcast that you've been on twice called Thyroid Strong.
Yeah.
Those are the main ways to find me. Yeah.
Incredible. And we'll put these in the show notes, but Emily, please, like, keep doing the awesome work that you're doing, because you are really, really changing and impacting the lives of so many women. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you loved this episode, follow or subscribe to the Midlife Realignment wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube, and leave a review to help other women find this show.